All right, so we are going to head to Château Cantenac Brown. This is one of my favorite producers from Margaux. It's one of the best expressions, as I like to say, of the classifications that we traditionally see and also the village. So there's a lot of layers when we're talking about Bordeaux. There's so much history in this region and why we kind of talk about it the way we do. So one of the most important things to understand with Bordeaux is the 1855 classification. And this bottle is a part of that. So on top, you can see Grand Cru Classé. That means that this wine was classified in that 1855 classification. So there's 5 what we call growths at this specific classification. Your first growths are going to be your Latours, your Lafittes, Moutons. There's only 5 of them. Really hard to find, very high dollar, but I think there's a lot of value and a lot of really phenomenal wines that produced in the 2nd, 3rds, 4th, and 5th. Some of my all-time favorite wines are 5th growths, especially as we get into their aged expressions as well. So this is a 2007, so we've seen quite some time in this specific bottle. So I'm super excited to revisit this producer. This is one of my all-time favorite producers, especially from Bordeaux. I personally also really love Margaux. Margaux is one of my favorite villages. I always say that they taste like an iron fist in a velvet glove, mainly because they can be packed with this immense amount of power. Their soil is very gravelly there. So Cabernet Sauvignon loves gravelly soil because it drains very well. But we can pick up some of that minerality and we can pick up some of that complexity that the soil brings to this specific wine. So the iron fist is really going to refer to the tannins, the alcohol, the acidity. All of those can be on the higher side. We can see a lot of layers when we're talking about Margaux. And then as they age, that's when we really get the velvet glove. Those tannins can become so silky and just so beautiful and so well integrated into the wine, especially when they've had about 10 years of age. I personally am a strong believer that Cabernet Sauvignon, the grape itself, no matter really where it's grown, is best enjoyed with at least 10 years of age on it. Some of my all-time favorite wines that in my top 10 list are comprised of some wines that are from the 90s that are Cabernet Sauvignon. I love Cab. I think it's a grape that we all love in some way, shape, or form. But we need to let it get some age to it so we can truly understand the specific grape and really see how it ages and really appreciate it on a different boundary. So we will go ahead and give this beautiful wine a try. Same rules are going to apply with the 1976. We need to let this wine stay for about 24 hours upright, just to ensure that if any sediment is in this wine, it makes it to the bottom. I don't think there's going to be much sediment in this wine, but it's better to be safe than sorry. There's absolutely nothing wrong with letting your wine stand up 24 hours before service. It just kind of gives you a little peace of mind that you're not going to have to worry about any grittiness in your wine. I also had issues with this cork as well, so please be very slow when we're opening this wine. Make sure your corkscrew is all the way through the wine, and make sure that we are in a good spot where we can make sure that this wine is going to be best served for us. This wine will decant for a bit. You can decant it for 15, 20, 30 minutes. It doesn't need it. It's already showing really well. But if you feel the need to slowly sip on this throughout a meal or throughout a night, this wine will be a really great choice. So onto the color of this wine. We are still getting some of that bricky element to this. Not nearly as much as we did with the Rioja, but this wine does definitely have some orange underlying characteristics to it. Onto the nose. Gorgeous, gorgeous nose. Definitely still very, very fruit forward. I'm getting a lot of black fruits and red fruits in this wine, some raspberries, blackberries, plums, figs. It's definitely driving the nose. But I definitely have that minerality and that kind of gravelly element to this wine. It does kind of smell graphite-y, which is a really big indicator in a blind tasting that a wine is from Bordeaux, is that it tends to have some of that graphite element to it. Onto the palate. Very delicious. This is a great food wine. This is a wine that will shine with a main course any sort of red meat, any sort of pork, anything really as your main course that has a lot of earth elements to it, this is going to go very well with. Bordeaux, like I said, is one of my favorite regions for many reasons. I love the history of this specific site. Margaux, as I said, absolutely beautiful. Bordeaux is known for having the chateaus on their labels. So most Bordeaux you see will have the actual estate listed on their label. But this is a absolutely gorgeous expression of Margaux. It really showcases that iron fists and a velvet glove. Like, you can still taste the pure power this wine has. The tannins are still very complex. I mean, they're still lingering on my palate, but they're still very soft at the same time. They're not overwhelming my palate in any way, shape, or form, but they're still very prominent. Such a great example of what Margaux can do as it ages, and especially this estate as well. This is an estate to be on the lookout for. I love their wines young and old. If you're going to drink any of these wines on the younger side, I definitely recommend a decant. But once they really reach about that 10-year timeline, we can go ahead and start enjoying them whenever we want. Like I said, I do believe Cabernet needs some time. You can enjoy it young. It's still delicious as it's a young wine, but we really see the true element of the wine when it's older. This is a Cabernet and Merlot blend. It is 65% Cab. Which is very typical of left bank Bordeaux. Right bank, we tend to see more Merlot and Cab Franc dominated wines. Left bank, we tend to see more Cab dominated wines, which all comes down to the soil. So cheers. Please enjoy all of the beautiful wines that we have for you all today. And we will be back next quarter with some more delicious wines for you all to try. Cheers.